White wine is served on Wednesdays. The goal of the music is to create a lovely ambience. As if it were just another busy livestream evening, Tasha laughs with the crowd while joking about her DJ board. Debt, vitamins, Panama, and the celebrity. Mess. On the surface, it feels light, renowned, safe, but if you actually watch the tape, something changes. She starts to sound tense. The jokes slow down. Her smile doesn't go away, but her energy shifts from playful to surgical. In the chat, names like Tamar, Funky, Mendeecees, and Yandi are already being used excessively. Since Funky's live performance went viral, everyone has been whispering in group conversations and comments, waiting for her to reveal what after that. The clip rolls. Funky's face is illuminated on screen by that cold, ruthless, flowing light. His remarks sound like a weapon emerging from a sheath, even though he speaks softly. He doesn't yell, he doesn't complain. He just lets it fall. Your ass was kissing while you were sitting on his lap in that goddamn Uber.
Since you want to be...
Go ahead, roll it, Jasmine.
Since you want to be like this, let's be like this. Part of the problem with this whole thing was, Tamar, is that I was never comfortable with the relationship that you and Mendeecees had in front of me, okay? All of that, your short and your booty shorts sitting on top of him meeting us up at restaurants every time we met up, I was very uncomfortable with it. And if we gonna tell it, let's tell it all. So since you were throwing a party for a friend's birthday party, do y'all wanna know why I did not get out the car and go upstairs with Tamar when we got back to her house? Because after her and Mendeecees got through kissing in the back of that goddamn car, I figured they wanted to be up there privately. That is why when we got dropped off at Tamar's house, I did not go upstairs. I got in my damn car and went home because you was sitting on his lap in that goddamn Uber and y'all ass was kissing, okay? And the shit made me damn uncomfortable, okay? Now, if anybody know who happened and what happened to your damn teeth, it's Mendeecees and his best friend, because they was the ones who went upstairs with you. Now, I don't know whether they was fucking your ass from the back and ran your head through the headboard or what, okay? But if anybody need to be investigated on what happened to you in your damn teeth, it need to be Mendeecees.
Funky says Tamar kissed Mendeecees while sitting on his lap in the car before going upstairs with him and a friend for a moment. There is silence. Then the internet goes crazy. Timelines of floods with comments. Wait, so that wasn't just a nice birthday party night? After that, didn't Tamar say she woke up in a pool of blood? Does Yandi's name constantly popping up because of this? Suddenly, screenshots of Tamar's own post about waking up hurt. Losing teeth and forgetting what happened are sewn alongside Funky's claims and Tasha's live response. The timestamps are replayed, the body language is rewinded, and the moments when laughing turns into discomfort are frozen with her eyes narrowed. Like she's staring at a crime board that only she can see. Tasha reclines in her chair on her set. To her, this is more than just nasty gossip. It's motivation, a timetable, and an alibi. Additionally, she's ready to read aloud the silent portion tonight. The supposedly innocent night spent with Mendeecees might have been influenced by Tamar's own remarks. The only question is what's left of that evening when the commercials, jokes, and chaos are taken out. As soon as the hook ends, the entire atmosphere changes. Curiosity suddenly gives way to tension, quiet, heavy, the kind that fills the room before anyone speaks, because the audience is no longer just reacting to Funky's irritation. Instead, they are going over Tamar's interview again, cue by cue, searching for the parts they were unaware were missing. She talks about how she was hurt when she woke up, how she was confused about what had happened, and how she experienced terror rather than clarity. At first glance, her interview seemed innocent. The tone is calm, the lighting is clean, and there's just a hint of vulnerability without any real worry. However, those elements feel different now. The ease of her delivery, the steadiness of her voice, the way she skips over the important parts. She says she was confused. She says she was drunk. She says she doesn't remember. She can still vividly remember one thing. Though she hosted a birthday celebration, Funky argues that that moment never occurred. That she didn't plan any celebrations, that she didn't have a strategy. That she just reached out because he happened to be available and she needed somewhere to go, and that everything she says about what happened before things went wrong revolves around that one specific fact. It makes her evenings more organized. Goal: a kind purpose that gives the impression that she is helpful, giving, and naive. That distinction, the difference between a thoughtful moment and a direct question, changes the tone of her version entirely, making people reconsider the rest of her story. And the significance of everything that followed would also seem different. If the reason for the evening wasn't what she said, the audience begins to wonder if the confusion she described was caused by selective storytelling or memory loss, as she expresses emotion without providing context. When viewers watch her interview again, they notice how effortlessly she avoids discussing the night's framework. She talks about emotions, but not the chronology. She recalls fear, but not movement. She remembers the exact time she awoke, but never identifies the people in her immediate vicinity. And there's Funky. His narrative is spatial rather than emotional. It shows motion in the real world, including where they went, who was there, how the group behaved, and the reasons he was uncomfortable. He remembers her call. He remembers the original location. He remembers the desire to continue the evening. He remembers the group dynamic evolving into something he was unable to fully comprehend. And his memory forges a path through the event based on details she never disclosed. Even in the absence of explicit goals, one of the variations floats. The others walked on an overview is given in one version. The others, disassembled names are avoided, inadvertently. The other shows off their combined weight as Tamar talks about herself and Funky. The people who were physically closest to her that night seem to disappear from her story. She doesn't mention the people in the restaurant, who went with her to the next location, who sat next to her, who helped her, or who stayed close enough for Funky to notice a change in vibe. The more people watch Tamar's interview, the more they see how deftly she avoids the involvement of others. The more viewers compare the two versions, the more Tamar's calm explanation begins to take on a different meaning. Defensive but not dishonest, yet lacking. She narrows the frame so tightly that the rest of the night is hidden, not because she is lying. That absence becomes a sort of clue in and of itself. The story's tone changes again when Funky talks about the group pressuring him to continue. Tamar describes the evening as haphazard and unplanned, as if it had slipped through her fingers. But Funky describes a night with momentum, decisions being made, paths being pushed, and energy moving in the direction of something he wasn't aware of and didn't want to participate in. The contrast between their tones is the main source of stress. She tells her story like someone narrating a fog. He says he went into a room full with signs that he didn't completely understand for years. People begin to accept his discomfort because uneasiness is one of the most honest emotions. It's the kind of emotion you don't create. It sneaks up on you, lingers in your memory, and then reappears years later when an explanation is found. That weight is in his voice. It's not anger or retaliation, just unresolved, raw pressure. At that point, viewers realize that the plot does not revolve around what happened at the end of the evening. Rather, it revolves around the interim, the hours that grow in his story and vanish in hers, the options she never mentions. He was unable to ignore the dynamics, the people she leaves out, the presence that he had not yet been able to understand. Her quiet is the most fascinating part of her story, not because remaining silent is suspect, but because a shape to stillness is always present, thanks to her timeline. Everyone may now know exactly which shape Funky's version avoids. The more both versions are examined, the more Tamar's poise becomes a question rather than an answer. People now see her entire life through a different lens due to her certainty in some areas, her ambiguity in others, her ease with emotive storytelling, and her resistance to structural reality. No one was questioning if Tamar remembered the evening by the time the audience had finished watching her interview again, but why she just remembered the specifics that obscured the rest of the picture. When Tamar's version falters, the audience completely turns their attention to Funky's story, not because Funky delivered it with confidence, but rather because he did. So, with the kind of emotional exhaustion that only comes from taking responsibility for something you didn't do. Additionally, viewers realize that they are hearing the perspective of someone who was actually paying attention, even though they were trying not to. As soon as he starts to describe the night in a methodical, step-by-step manner, he explains that before Tamar called to ask for a place to eat, he was at home. It was not sentimental at all. Nothing happened, no intention. It was just a convenient moment that she later turned into something far more significant than it actually was. He was reluctant to go out. He didn't have a party vibe. He had nothing to celebrate. He talks about how she and her friends pushed him into places he didn't want to be by gently but firmly moving him from one place to another. He was unable to describe the night. Things start to change when he talks about the moment he saw Mendeecees arrive. He doesn't make a big announcement. Instead, he describes it as if it were a puzzle piece that suddenly clarified the stress he had been feeling since the beginning of the evening. It wasn't a coincidence. Rather, it seemed planned not for him or the others. But for her, the internet picks this up right away. If Tamar truly didn't remember that night, why would she ignore someone who was so vital to its vitality? Funky's memory paints a different picture, one in which she was socially active, fully aware, moving purposefully, and interacting with people she never acknowledged in public. There was no wandering among the group, and she never mentioned what they were circling. Her interview suggests that she didn't really socialize at this point. Viewers begin to reevaluate everything she presented as harmless uncertainty. It begins to feel like a calculated move for her to keep quiet around the people she was closest to that evening. Protective rather than malicious. It seemed as though she was trying to protect not only herself, but also the relationships. She didn't want the world to associate with the chaos of the following morning. Funky remembers the tension in the room, as the gang insisted that he accompany them somewhere else. He remembers feeling outnumbered, but not in a menacing way. Instead, he felt as though the plans weren't focused on him. He felt as though he was being drawn into a night that had already started long before he arrived. Viewers began to experience a sense of displacement. Displaced people watch everything. They study energy. They are experiencing tension. They pick up on unspoken information that the participants are too comfortable to notice. He was able to witness the emotional triangle from the outside since he was not a part of it, which is exactly why his description is so potent. He read the room without even realizing it as he explains the shifts between locations. Viewers begin to notice something that Tamar failed to mention throughout the entire interview. She never describes the movement of the night. She never explains how they moved from one place to another. She never mentions who was in her immediate vicinity or how close they were. She portrays the night as a desolate place where events just happened with no human connection. But in Funky's story, people are everywhere. Moving, talking, sincere, looking at each other. And there is one individual among them whose presence changes. Everything. His memories of the car ride become more vivid when he thinks back on it, not because of the kiss yet, but because of the way the car's atmosphere revealed something he couldn't ignore. People shifting seats, people leaning in close, quiet conversations, and subtle body language changes that weren't appropriate for a casual night out. Tamar sees the night as something she lost control of, whereas Funky describes it as one in which she seemed to have total control over groupings, maneuvers, and associates, and that distinction has a direct bearing on the central theme of the story. One woman says she doesn't remember anything. One man says he remembers everything he wishes he hadn't. When the internet takes into account both versions, Tamar's chosen descriptions begin to feel purposeful. She emphasizes her moments of compassion while omitting any details that would require explanation, like who she was with, how she behaved, and what her interactions revealed. In the meantime, Funky's fatigue intensifies. Rather than being furious, his voice breaks with regret at being dragged through a story in which he had no involvement. The audience can see how long he endured being held responsible for a night he tried to flee. How long did he wait to defend himself? How long did he remain silent while others portrayed him as careless, callous, or heartless? Because of this emotional exhaustion, viewers feel that Tamar's interview lacked motivation. Why would she ruin the framework of the night? Why would she leave out names? Why would she make the events so difficult to see? To tell the truth, to simplify, things to be secured, to divert attention from the one thing she didn't want examined. The firm she upheld by the time Funky reaches the point in the evening when he decides to leave the group. Viewers have a clearer picture of him. He had no intention of leaving the celebration. Instead, he was fleeing an energy that wasn't his, an energy he couldn't understand, and an energy that the internet now recognizes with new clarity after his confession. The evening was an emotional disaster. According to Tamar, it was a planned evening, according to Funky, but it became something she never intended to convey. As these two stories linger in the air, unfinished and heavy, the audience begins to realize that neither of their claims hides the reality. It's hidden among the things she stayed away from. And what he finally admitted when Funky finally reaches the back seat, which Tamar never mentioned. Everything changes. Her confusion on one side and his caution on the other could still be parallel stories up until this point. But as soon as he remembers the car, the accounts begin to diverge like two trains on different tracks. Instead of being noisy or chaotic, he describes the cars inside as strangely intimate, a level of intimacy that wasn't suitable for a casual evening out. The kind of intimacy that sharpens an outsider's intuition even if they aren't yet aware of what they are feeling. He remembers where everyone was seated. He remembers the sudden quiet. He remembers how the illumination, plot motions that people thought no one observed. Next, he discloses the one fact that permeates Tamar's whole narrative and caught the audience off guard. She wasn't distant, she wasn't confused, she was not flickering between states of consciousness. She was completely present, actively engaged, deciding what to do. The room goes silent when he gets to the point where she approaches Mendeecees. It's not the dramatic recounting or the exaggerated version the internet produced. Instead, it's a quiet account of two people acting as if they didn't think anyone was watching. He doesn't exaggerate so viewers can feel the weight of it. He just describes what he saw. All of Tamar's carefully prepared interview abruptly begins. To shift, she remembered the drama. She remembered the pain when she woke up. She remembered being hurt, but for the whole event. She couldn't remember the one person Funky says was closest to her. This absence becomes a turning point for the audience. It doesn't matter if something happened or not. It has nothing to do with guilt or innocence. It's about omission. According to Funky, the silence surrounding a presence changed the evening's trajectory. When he brings up the physical intimacy between her and Mendeecees, viewers shift in their seats. The reason, not the scandal, is the emotional difference. Tamar described herself as vulnerable and alone. According to Funky, she is surrounded particularly by someone she never mentioned in her justification. As a result, the narrative breaks apart. Her story is shaped by her. Loss of control. His has been formed by the moment he decided to leave. Two different strategies for self-preservation. But the car ride has more to do with timing than love or mistrust. As Tamar's story of the night ends in a blank wall, while Funky's continues with excruciating clarity. He remembers arriving at her house. He remembers the group departing. He remembers feeling the air change again, a faint indication that something unsaid was guiding the night. Then he reveals what sends the internet into a frenzy. He didn't go upstairs, not because he didn't care, not because he was irresponsible. He was able to read the surroundings clearly. Though, because Tamar and Mendeecees' chemistry made him feel unnecessary and possibly undesired. Based on their body language, they didn't seem to want to witness to whatever they were entering, and the decision to leave served as the foundation for everything that followed. Tamar's story revolved around her. Awakening on her own. Funky's defense revolved around leaving the house. Attached to the same instant are two anchors with quite different facts. When he discloses who she went upstairs with, the narrative takes an irreversible turn. The internet begins dissecting every detail of Tamar's interview, searching for omissions rather than lies. Why didn't she mention the attendees? Why did she describe the night as lonely? Why did she leave a blank space when Funky says the story becomes clear? The most fascinating thing about her quiet is that it is purposeful rather than loud. Rather than being influenced by human dynamics, it is delicate and carefully created to preserve the image of a night marred by a single incident. Funky, on the other hand, doesn't sound like someone looking for revenge. His tone is almost melancholy, as if he's tired of hiding details of the story that have been bothering him for much longer than the audience knew. He speaks as if he wishes he didn't have to reveal any of this, but the guilt he carried compels him to. And that weakness becomes a kind of independent evidence, because Tamar's words caused her pain. Under pressure. Funky spoke. Two emotional states collide. Two tales collide. As he describes the moment he drove away before everything fell apart, viewers quickly understand why he had such a vivid memory of the night. He saw the last glimpse of the night, turning his back on the threshold she had passed, which she later claimed she was unable to see. Well, it is not proof of anything. It is not evidence of wrongdoing. Only one of them can reconcile, because their stories vary so drastically at this point. They didn't try either. By the time he finishes his description of the car in the doorway, the internet no longer views the situation as complicated. It seems unfair to them. Her story conceals the people who stood by her side. His story highlights the people that supported. Her chronology erases the hours before the fall, the exact hour that everything changed. It's marked on his timeline. Her quiet protects someone's candor exposes them. Somewhere, in that imbalance is the reality that neither of them wants. To accept nothing truly changes until the following morning. Not because Tamar wakes up in agony or because the internet reacts, but rather because every time someone asks a question that none of them wants to answer, the distance between her and his versions grows. There is a lot of emotion in her explanation. He is exhausted when he comes. The contrast between the two appears intentional, even if neither of them intended it. She discusses pain, confusion, and fear. She talks about how she felt hurt and alone when she woke up. She talks about not knowing what or how it. But while recounting the evening, she never talks about the hours leading up to that point. The others who stayed by her side, the shift in the mood of the group, or the man whose presence she totally erased. Every time she leaves out a detail, the silence becomes more intense. But Funky's memory never wavers. He is reminded of everything he wishes he could forget. He remembers the location changes, the feeling of being coerced into a night he didn't want, the sudden shift in energy when Mendeecees showed up, and the intimacy he experienced long before anyone noticed. Instead of disclosing, he speaks as if he has been rehearsing this moment. Alone for months in order to survive, and viewers begin to notice something that changes the tone of everything. Her story is shaped by the repercussions. His narrative is shaped by observation. Her story begins with an injury. His story is never told there, and that gap is where the real tension lies. He claims that as he left her doorway, he felt the weight of someone who was unaware of the significance of what he was leaving behind. He didn't run away or simply walk away. Instead, he distanced himself from a dynamic to which he did not belong. Now, both stories center on that decision, the quiet retreat into the night. Because once he admits that he departed, everything Tamar later said becomes uncertain, including the size of the location she never wants to return to in public. Who went up the stairs with her? Who helped her inside? Who stayed? Who didn't? Whose presence mattered in those final hours? She doesn't say anything. She doesn't even hint at it, and that silence starts to stand in the way. Not to be dishonest, but to protect a relationship that she didn't want to be made public. One that she couldn't publicly connect to the chaos of the following morning. And one that she didn't want anybody to connect to her pain or confusion. Conversely, Funky carries the opposite weight. He doesn't need protection. He must be separated. He talks about being accused 5 crimes he was not physically capable of committing, and before he said a single word to defend himself, he claimed to have read hundreds of comments from people who had already judged him. Every explanation he gives is an appeal to stop being the villain of the internet for something he did not witness. Moreover, the pain in his voice seems more like treachery than fury. No, based on Tamar's experience. But she didn't say anything. She didn't accuse him directly. She didn't defend him either. She let the internet fill in the details. Blanks might be dangerous as well. As a result, his voice breaks when he describes how he begged her in private to clarify that he wasn't involved. When she did, she removed it, which ignites a new fire because it shows doubt rather than guilt. Why remove a clarification if it was correct? Why alter the narrative if it wasn't? Why let thousands of people believe the wrong idea if it was vital to clear it up? There's no answer. At this point, her omissions begin to dominate her words. Every detail she avoids becomes more audible. Suspicions are raised by every gap in her story. Every vanished name has a story to tell. Meanwhile, Funky's story gets more painful as he admits that, despite everything, he didn't want their friendship to end this way. He didn't want to be put in this situation. He didn't want to reveal details of the evening that weren't his. But he had no way out of her silence, at least not one that would have protected his reputation. The audience is unable to overlook the unexpected turn of events caused by his sensitivity. She discusses trauma. He is under pressure when he speaks. Furthermore, the same reality is revealed from both perspectives. Another individual was involved. Someone else was significant. That evening, someone else fashioned the energy. She refuses to express that the internet begins to piece together chronologies, juxtaposing her facial expressions with his answers, looking at pauses when reading between lines. Neither of them went over the line entirely in a few hours. None of them can claim ownership of the story. It then becomes a public investigation. People question why she portrayed the night as lonely even. Though he said she was surrounded, why did she emphasize uncertainty while he emphasized control? Why could he remember everything but she couldn't? When she positioned herself in the center, why did he pull away? And most importantly, why did Mendeecees show up so often in his memories, but not in her story? That omission, the unidentified, unheard reality that both of them orbit, is the source of the essential tension. He doesn't accuse her of anything. She doesn't accuse him of lying. But the stories don't make sense. No matter how hard they try, it's like looking at two halves of a painting that represent different circumstances. It is also felt by the general people. The more the audience delves deeper, the more they realize that the dynamics before to the accident and the upheaval were the real tale. She never acknowledged the relationship. She hid the interactions. And he was unable to articulate the discomfort he witnessed. As a result, when he finally falters and claims that someone else, someone completely unrelated to their conflict, was emotionally damaged by everything, the internet stops breathing. The name resembles a shadow suspended in space. Suddenly, the story no longer revolves around Tamar and Funky. The ripple impact of the night will not be sufficiently captured by either. The tension remains, it grows, it lingers, it seeps into the topics they won't talk about. Because in the end, what they say doesn't hide the truth. It's hidden in the things they both refuse to explain. as the two stories develop side by side. The audience also begins to realize that neither Tamar nor Funky are disclosing everything they know. Rather than lying, they are both on the verge of facts that are too serious to disclose. A soft, watchful calm permeates her pauses. The weight of things he hasn't yet addressed in public has left him looking ragged. Furthermore, the spaces between. Their remarks begin to reveal more information than the words themselves. People start going back to Tamar's interview to look at what she avoided rather than what she said. She talks about waking up on her own, but she never discusses the moments. Before going to sleep, she emphasizes worry, but never identifies its source. She makes references to mayhem, but never names those in her immediate vicinity, as if doing so would reveal something she's not ready to face. The natural defense strategy of someone who knows the truth is too complex, too personal, or too messy for the general public. So her omissions begin to sound purposeful rather than dishonest. The simplicity of that moment turning around, walking away, and walking down the hallway becomes an unsettling emotional time stomp. In Funky's version, on the other hand, because everything Tamar went on to describe takes place in a world that he was never able to see or enter. And the core of his suffering is the idea that he was held responsible for something that happened in that invisible realm. Her experience is not questioned by him. It's his part in the story she crafted, the story that waves accepted on the internet. He had to break down the story, piece by piece, in order to rebuild his own reputation. Because every version she made available to the public appears to have been polished at the edges and smoothed down to avoid sharp corners. A story designed to keep someone safe or possibly protect herself from realizing the true significance of the evening, which included the tension she was unable to explain, the emotional fragility, the blurred lines,